Okay, so in Jamaica, a conservative estimate of the loss to farmers and fishers each year due to the harvest being stolen has been estimated at $6 billion with a B. Incidents of Praedial Larceny can be particularly devastating for farmers, but what is the wider impact that this crime has on our economy? Well, newly appointed Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, the Honourable Pearnel Charles Jr. is zooming in now to discuss $6 billion, Minister, welcome.
Morning, sir.
$6 billion with a B.
Good morning.
What?
It is devastating, and that's just the economic value, not to mention the impact emotionally and otherwise on families across the country. So
this is their livelihood we're talking about.
Lives and livelihood. So you know that Praedial Larceny has now basically evolved from just stealing a goat to now stealing a goat and killing. So the difficulty for us now, the great challenge, is that it has evolved as a crime and it's now interlinked with a criminal network and unfortunately leading to a lot of murders. So it is something that is high on the radar for JCF, high on the priority list for us at the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries. And we have no choice but to make sure that we tackle Praedial Larceny, because it is also, Simone, defined as one of the greatest barriers to young people getting involved in farming.
And so many of our young people are doing that and want to do that and have seen it as a viable option. Minister, how has it been able to evolve? You said it's grown into it's almost like a linkage. I mean, pardon the term, right? It's like a linkage industry now, right? Many tenterhooks and it's almost like an octopus growing. But how have we allowed it to get to that point?
You know, there have been several efforts. We have the Larceny Act, which defines Praedial Larceny. We have the Praedial Larceny Prevention Act, which really carved out the role for agricultural wardens and defined the categories of produce. But we simply haven't made yet the level of investment and coordinated and consistent effort that is required for us to truly tackle this very impactful and terrible crime. And what has happened also, Neville, Simone, everyone, is that it has been connected now to the guns and drugs trade. So several persons are even using the produce that they steal, and converting that into guns and trading for guns. So you see where there has been just this overwhelming impact of the crime. But we have not yet had a coordinated effort that has worked. There have been several efforts. We now are looking back on all that has been done, looking on what has been done well, what hasn't been done well. And we have started the work to truly now bring in the innovation and mix that with the level of expertise that is going to be required. We will have a task force which will be composed of persons from the JCFs, security specialists, and others, farmers, because it's not just a security issue, as I said. It's very connected to the persons who are buying the produce, persons who buy the goats and the cows that are stolen, and the impact on our public health, because if they don't care enough and they can come and steal from you, what happens, which is the greatest risk, is that they will steal products that will impact us negatively. So they steal the produce that is just sprayed with chemicals and we end up eating it. They steal the cows and the goats that are not ready to eat yet. And so it's just a multiplicity of things which really make this something that we have to tackle as a priority.
Yeah, Minister, I remember when I watched the Cowboy show, the brand, the cattle. And I think in Jamaica, I don't know if tag is the right word.
Yes.
I think they tag them. Does that help in any way? So if I steal a cow, somebody not supposed to say, no, man, but it's Simone cow does that help?
You are 100% correct, Neville. And sometimes we have to step back to what our grandparents did that worked and mix that with the innovation. So the tagging is critical. We're going to boost our national tagging program, but we're also going to twin that with the use of genome sequencers, another innovation that will help us to not just identify where the cow or the goat is gone, but to link any piece of meat that is in any shop or that is purchased by anyone to the tagging, and to make sure that we can track where that produce goes and where it ends up. So keep your records, farmers. We need you to do record keeping. We have to do the tagging. We have to have proper bushing and lighting of your areas so we can identify the persons who are coming in. We have to have partnerships with the police and create our farm watch groups. That's essential so that we can work together. And simple communication like what we're doing right now is critical. So we have to thank Smile Jamaica for the opportunity to get the information out, because building capacity and raising awareness is one of the most essential parts of providing solutions to these crimes.
So the task force is up and ready. What are next steps and what are the goals?
The next
And
step
timelines.
is really for us. The next step is for us, as we're doing now. We're looking at the legislation. We're going to make the necessary amendments to strengthen our penalties and to widen the pool of produce that are now in the law as categories to be considered. And we're going to make sure that over the next 6 months, we have a very resilient, quiet, but consistent effort by our task force to truly define practical and affordable solutions, because everything costs money. And we're going to continue to ask the farmers to work together to create your PMOs, create your groups, so that when we see less Praedial Larceny where there's better coordination. And so coordination, and as Neville alluded to, the tagging, those are critical, and we're asking for those to be done right now. So over the next 6 months, Simone, you're going to see a true boosting of efforts from the ministry's part and from our Praedial Larceny unit's part to see how we can get those things to be improved in numbers and to increase the resilience of our farmers across the country.
Yeah. We said at the top, sir, that you're the newly appointed minister, but from what you know, how good are we at catching these thieves?
So we have improved. We have greater capacity to get information and increased ability to respond. But there's much more that is required if we are going to be able to truly call ourselves on the trajectory towards a sustainable agriculture and fisheries sector. Because, yes, we're catching more persons, but the impact on the farmers is still way too much. It's an enormous and devastating impact. So we have a far way to go for us to be comfortable.
Yeah.
But I do want to acknowledge the efforts of the police and of the farmers so far, and to encourage them and let them know that for us, for me, for the Prime Minister, for the government, this is a priority, and we're going to keep ourselves focused on making the investment to truly tackle the problem of Praedial Larceny.
And it's not just the folks who are directly involved. You need buy-in from communities as well. This is that if you see something, say something matter too, Minister.
Yes.
So it's community members, it's people on the ground. It's not just the folks who you'd think are in charge or a part of the industry, but it's a wider societal community issue where we have to help each other to stamp it out.
Listen, all of us eat food. All of us want to be able to stop anywhere and feel safe eating any food that is provided to us. And so Praedial Larceny is not a farmer's problem. It's not the minister's problem. It's not Simone or Neville's problem. It's every Jamaican's problem. Everybody who's in our country's problem. So yes, you're completely correct. We have to bind together to make sure that we report, and report. That's the only way for us to truly get information that can now be turned into evidence and lead to apprehension and convictions. So that's the great message that you're sending there, Simone. And we encourage persons that if you have information, please report it, because this is not just a national security or agriculture issue. It's a public health issue which touches every single household in our country.
Thanks for speaking with us, sir. God bless you. Stay safe.
Pleasure is mine. All the best to you. Have a productive week.
Thank you,
sir.
to you too. Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, Jinx, the Honourable Pearnel Charles Jr. on the impact, excuse me, of Praedial Larceny on our economy.
Up next, we share the wealth with Neville Bell.
Yes.